Hi, everybody. I'm Marti Bledsoe Post. Welcome to the Topline, where parents just like you and me with long to-do lists and short attention spans get to learn each week what a working parent is doing out on the front lines. And my guest this week is Darcy Lockman. She is the author of All the Rage, Mothers, Fathers, and the Myth of Equal Partnership. And you can see that my copy of this book is quite earmarked with Post-its and notes. Hi, Darcy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marti. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here, especially considering sort of the crazy world we're all finding ourselves in right now. Can you start out for the audience and just tell them a bit about your, work and family setup as it's going right now?
Sure. That's a funny question. So setup is such a boundaried word. I have two kids. They're in third grade and sixth grade, 7 and 11, and I am raising them with my husband in Queens, New York City. And we are currently, my husband and I are both psychologists, so we're both therapists working virtually now since the pandemic, and trading off hours in the office, so to speak, with kind of helping our kids manage getting to their e-classes and trying to keep track of homework and stuff. So we feel like so lucky that we're in control of our schedules because we're both self-employed. It's made this manageable. I constantly am saying to my husband, I don't know how other people are managing this. If I had if I had an employer and he did as well, it would just be, I imagine it would be impossible. So we now are each either during like typical working hours, actually working or helping our kids do school.
How did you divide that up?
How did we?
Yeah.
We divided it up by what our patient hours were. We had already, even like back in March when this all started, we kind of worked things out so that one or the other of us would be available before 1 o'clock, because that's when all their school stuff was happening. Mm-hmm. So I was already on, like, for me, full-time as a therapist is 25 hours. And then I had 2 days for writing, which I was, working on a new book proposal, and that's sort of gone by the wayside because that time is now devoted to, making sure that my third grader can sit through her class or whatever the case. So so again, just because we were able to make our own schedules, where we were really able to work that out in a pretty good way.
Yeah.
And we've been subletting space in our neighborhood to work in, because in a 2-bedroom Manhattan apartment, you can't have 2 therapists and 2 children going to school all simultaneously. That really doesn't work. So one of us actually leaves to go do our virtual work in another space, which has been really helpful.
Okay. So you mentioned the book, the new book kind of going by the wayside right now, just as your writing time has been taken up. So from that to a bigger perspective, how have your kids really impacted your career overall?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think, again, because I'm self-employed, I don't have the same sort of ladder climbing trajectory that a more traditional career might have. I mean, I'm perfectly content more or less with my private practice, which I can, and I can devote as many hours to that as I want to eke out. And of course, as few as I want to eke out, I suppose, though there are financial, constraints for as there are for everyone's working life. I have to work a certain amount, certainly. And then also I went back to school later in life. So I went back to school, which is not uncommon in clinical psychology, at 30. I had been a magazine writer before that. And then I had kids in my late 30s. So I was really starting my practice at the same time that I was starting my family. And those things just went really well together because it is so flexible. I was able, because of the flexibility of my job, when my kids still actually attended school, to also use that time for writing, which is something that I really love. And that has fallen by the wayside. So I guess, it's kind of like, it is something I do for money, but it's not, writing is not primarily for money. It's more because I really enjoy it and can fit it into my work schedule. So that has fallen by the wayside. And I imagine a lot of women's projects along those lines that are absolutely necessary for falling by the wayside. And there's research, as we talked about before we got on, that's showing that the family studies stuff is already showing that it's more women and less men who are being impacted professionally by the pandemic.
Yeah, so let's dig into that for just a minute. So, do you feel like you have the conditions in your life that you need to be your most creative right now?
Marty, I'm sorry, you froze, so I didn't hear
Oh,
the question.
oh, sorry about that. Let me try it again. Do you feel like you have the conditions you need in your life to be your most creative right now?
Um, no, are you kidding me? Uh, not at all. I mean, there's no in the like within the traditional work week, and I don't really want to work more than 40 hours a week. I like to have other stuff on the weekends and whatever. No, because so much time is taken up by just like making sure the kids are doing what they need for school. I mean, their physical presence in the house,
Yeah.
which on one hand is lovely. I really do enjoy all the extra family time we're getting, and I feel like my kids are at perfect ages for it because they're not totally dependent, and they also aren't teenagers yet.
Hmm.
So we're enjoying this time on one hand, but no, I mean, time is much more limited for any like personal pursuits that I might want to engage in.
Does your husband have those creative conditions in his life right now?
No, definitely not. He doesn't want them in the same way, so it's different. But we're both either, working to earn money or kind of overseeing what the kids need, doing laundry. I mean, we don't feel particularly strapped because we have this flexibility with our schedules, but there's no such thing as downtime as it would have been before, like during the work, because the kids, our kids were in school and after school, so they were gone every day, 8:30 to 5. And of course, a lot of that was spent with us earning a living in our professions. But I also had 2 days to write. He sees more patients than I do, actually. So he didn't.
Well, what would you tell other working parents right now who are trying to navigate this with a partner, who, married parents who are trying to figure this out, drawing from what you have known from the book, but also what you're seeing in terms of new research and data around women and unpaid work?
Yeah. So the research is that women are the ones are all. This is always true, and of course during the pandemic, women are the one whose ambitions fall by the wayside when time is crunched, and so that's what we're seeing now. I saw one. I must have seen this on Twitter out of academia, like the number of papers or proposals being submitted to journals is way more heavily skewed in favor of men in the last few months. And the assumption being that it's because women are taking on more of the at-home school stuff with their kids. I think that, it behooves us to examine our own internalized sexism and the assumptions we make about how everything should be our responsibility. And it behooves our partners to do the same, to think about sort of the impact of growing up in a patriarchy and on what our assumptions are about who is supposed to do what and who needs to do what. Because it's only through examining those beliefs that we can really decide whether we want to behave differently. Or simply kind of go with the status quo. But for it to be a real choice, we have to have a good understanding of what's going on underneath the surface, which is why I wrote this book, because I wanted to understand how things had gotten so skewed in my own egalitarian relationship, and also for the women who I knew who found themselves in the same position.
Right, because in a quote unquote modern day, we would assume that many of these sexist ideas are gone or, have fallen, into the past. And that's not actually true, is it?
Values have changed, and a lot of progressive couples before kids will tell you, of course, they're going to share everything equally. But what I learned in doing research for All the Rage was that attitudes do not predict behaviors. And in fact, when behaviors start being apparently in conflict with attitudes, people change their attitudes as opposed to the other way around.
Oh,
And
wow.
I do believe it's because so much of this is unconscious. We don't go into marriage these days, at least, modern couples don't usually go into marriage saying, all the housework and childcare is gonna belong to the woman, even though she's gonna work too and earn, half our family's income or a significant portion of our family's income. We would never say that, and yet our behavior certainly, our behavior collectively certainly indicates that that's an underlying belief.
Hmm. What is one thing that you personally have just let go of, quit caring about since this all pandemic began?
What's one thing I have let go of caring about?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I think, let's see, I think in some ways, um, everything. Like nothing seems like I like the idea that we're doing the best we can under difficult circumstances sits pretty well with me. I have let my kids eat more junk food. In the early days of the pandemic, when everything was so tense, we left the city and rented a house in the woods for a while. And I knew that snacks would keep my kids happy. Like, because I don't usually let them have much junk food. So we loaded up and they loved it. And it was like such an easy way to make them lighten up in a way, like be happier and in a better mood. So I have become less strict about junk food.
Okay, that's a good one. That's actually a really good one. And if you were going to design a t-shirt right now for working parents, what would it say on the front?
Wash me.
Oh, I like that. I really like that. That's awesome. Does your family—
Please help me with my laundry. I can't do it.
Right, exactly. Bonus points if you'll fold yourself and put yourself away too. And what about a tradition that has started for the four of you, or a new thing that you've kind of started during this time that you like or want to continue?
Yeah, we started doing meal kits. We're doing HelloFresh. There are so many of them right now, and it has made cooking so much easier because you don't have to think about what you're going to make. It just arrives. And also the directions are very easy to follow. So my husband, who has never felt very comfortable in the kitchen, can cook those meals. And it's been really nice to have that. Yesterday, my younger daughter, who's 7, cooked with me. And I think I'm going to let my 11-year-old try it more or less on her own tonight because it's so easy to follow. So that's been something that's been good. We don't eat out anymore, of course, though we do get takeout sometimes. So we're having more meals at home, which I really enjoy. It's really nice not to have to rush anywhere. And I hope when things get back to normal, somehow maybe we can instill not rushing to get places. I don't know how that would happen, but it's been really nice not to be rushing any.
Yeah, that's one of those things I hope everybody gets to hold on to, is that just slower, more mindful pace. Just 2 more questions. One is, what have you done just for yourself lately?
I've been running a lot during the pandemic, which I really enjoy. My commuting time has been cut out of my life, so it's easy to go for a half an hour run when I'm no longer doing a 90-minute commute.
Yeah.
Not total, not each way. I took a bath recently. I took an Epsom salt bath because my muscles were sore. Have I seen any friends lately independently? No, I mean, I don't feel deprived of like doing stuff for myself, but I can't think of anything other than those things in particular. But exercise is a good one. Really, it helps my mood so much.
Yes, absolutely. And then what's one question I didn't ask you that you think I should ask my next guest?
That you should ask your next guest. I don't know, like how they're feeling about everything, maybe.
Yeah.
That's
just to describe it. Yeah. What's your overall mood or feeling right now?
Well, it changes from day to day. I mean, I feel very lucky to still be employed. If we were no longer able to earn a living, as I know a lot of families aren't right now, that would really put us in crisis. So overall, I feel lucky. We're all healthy. We love being home together. I mean, maybe not as much as we are, but it's like a very comfortable time for us in this perverse way because the world is so bad. I got really despondent when school started about the education that my kids were missing out on. Because as hard as everyone's trying, this remote stuff is not, I don't think they're learning very much. I don't know how to make it any different. Clearly, full-time school isn't an option right now. So I've been feeling bummed about that. My 6th grader isn't getting to go to middle school, which she was really excited about. There's so much that everyone has missed out on. Weddings, being able to be together at funerals. I mean, so all that stuff is hard. I get, I have a lot of feelings about the election coming up. So I'm trying not to listen to too much news because it makes me very anxious. Some days I feel like, okay, this is all manageable. And some days I feel like none of this is manageable. It goes back.
Yes, I can relate to that. And it can go back and forth in an hour or two, really, depending on the setting.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know we kept our chat really brief, but that's because our working parent audience is so busy. So I'll just tell them one more time that your book is all the rage. They can grab this on Amazon. It's a wonderful read. It will help you with all kinds of issues at home, which you might be experiencing right now. So thank you so much for being with us, Darcy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. My turn.
Take good care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.